Whether the issue is law, science, economics, history, family, social issues, education, religion, government, or national security, Brannon brings the issues of the day into clear focus through the lens of a Judeo-Christian worldview. And now, here is your host, Brannon Howe.
And welcome to the broadcast on this June 26, 2025. We're going to be joined tonight by Leo Holman, Mark Mitchell of Rasmussen, and we're going to get an economic update from Michael Weiner. And Donald Trump, he wants to be done with this Fed chairman, Jerome Powell. He has another guy he wants to bring in, apparently. We'll find out how that might happen, and we'll find out about what's going on with the dollar and where we're going with gold, and the talk of over $4,000 gold by the time the year is over, de-dollarization, and could silver actually go above $50, go back to the record high of 50 or maybe more? I don't know. Let's ask Michael Weiner on that tonight. Three great guests. Leo Holman has a brand new article out at leoholman.substack.com. This is called, look at this, Execs from Palantir, Meta, OpenAI being brought into U.S. Army as colonels. Turbocharged military's use of drone warfare, robot soldiers, other high-tech killing machines. What is this all about, folks? I dealt with it on Worldview Report tonight, my newscast, briefly. But I want to get into this more tonight, play some video clips as well. Seems like some kind of massive systems being built here. And now we're going to merge the military with it? Wait a minute, wasn't the military the one that brought us warp speed and the COVID mess and all that? I don't know. I don't know. Let's get into that tonight. And then Mark Mitchell, let's talk with him about right direction, wrong direction. Where are we going? How's the polling holding up for Mr. President Donald Trump? A little hint, it's holding up. And let's talk about, though, Americans' frustration with the government and their desire to see President Trump's agenda accomplished. Apparently, that's the deal. A lot of Americans want President Trump's domestic policy that he campaigned on to be successful, to come to pass. And they're getting a little frustrated that it's not happening. But they think it's going the right direction with him. So we'll get into that tonight. And what about the midterms? Where are we headed with the midterms? Where are we going with the census? And the idea of who's going to represent us in the House, which is determined by the census. And where is it going with the 2028 presidential hopefuls? Anything that Mark can share on those things? We'll get into all that tonight with a great group of guests. Now, I want to warn you guys in advance. We're going on vacation. We're tired. You're probably tired too, right? We're all tired. We all work hard. Everybody in this audience is a hard worker. I know that. Because you guys are all patriots and you're entrepreneurs and you're the kind of people that put the, pedal to the metal and just work. You got families and kids and grandkids, and you're responsible people. That's the kind of people that watch our broadcast. So I know you guys are all tired, and we all need a break. And that's coming up, thankfully, with the 4th of July. So like everybody else, we're going to take some time off for the 4th, spend some time with family. So don't worry, we'll still be here 24/7 with our network rolling. And we're going to roll in some of my documentaries and stuff, right, Logan? Yeah, I think we are. And while we're on a break for the 4th, we'll also be working on a documentary on Robert E. Lee. We did a lot of filming on Robert E. Lee when we were in Washington, D.C., and I've already written the script about Robert E. Lee's house that belonged to his father-in-law and mother-in-law. His father-in-law was actually the grandson of Martha Washington. So we'll get into all that in this documentary, and I've already written the script. We're going to film that, the chatter that goes with it, and produce that over. So we'll still be working over the holiday, but we won't have to be in a suit and tie and at the desk unless there's breaking news. Breaking news changes everything, and then I've got to put on a suit and tie and come back to the desk. But other than that, we're planning on taking a few days off, like the rest of you, and spending time with family, maybe playing some cornhole. I'm trying to learn to play gin. Logan, have you ever played gin? He's not played gin. I love rook. But I'm learning to play gin. When I say learning, I mean I'm at the very beginning stages of learning to play gin. So I watched a video on how do you play gin. My wife watched it, I watched it, because it's a game that Melissa and I can play together. We don't have a lot of time for games where we just work. The whole family works. We're all a bunch of alcoholics. We're all a bunch of workaholics. But I don't drink, so that's never going to happen. I hate alcohol. I hate the taste of it. That's not going to be an issue with me because I hate the stuff. But I am a workaholic. That I am. And so we don't have a lot of time for games. But I said, you know what? During this 4th of July break, what I like to do is just maybe sit in the backyard and play a little gin. Because Rook takes 4 people, and I don't always have another 2 people around to play. But she and I can play gin. So I said, we have a couple friend of ours, they play gin all the time. I think they play pretty much every night, husband and wife team. I said, we should learn to play gin. I don't even know what it means. I mean, I'm saying we should learn to play gin. Maybe it's too hard. I don't know. But I said, I like to play gin. If they're playing gin, it's 2 people can play it. We should learn. So we looked up a video on how to play gin, and I watched it. I'm like, that looks like a pretty fun game. So I got to watch the video 2 or 3 more times, and then we're going to give it a shot. So maybe by the time I come back from the 4th of July, I'll be really good at playing gin. But Melissa and I need a game that we can just play together in the backyard while the dogs run around. And we're going to do that and chill a little bit and come back. Logan just said a while ago, you look drained, Dad. You look tired. I said, I am. I'm exhausted. I'm tired. I'm worn out. But I think a lot of you feel that way. And you're very eager for a few days with the 4th of July off and just to rest and relax a little bit, right? So we're going to do that. We'll still be working, like I said, on our documentary about Robert E. Lee, and we'll be updating Worldview Report and all those kind of things. I'll be studying on the book of Revelation, because to me, I enjoy that kind of thing. I can study with my books in the sun and enjoy the weather and study. But if we have to, folks, we'll come back. We'll come back live. We'll come back live if there's breaking news. But I just don't want you to worry that something's happened when we're gone for the next week on our 4th of July vacation. All right, so there you go. All right, so don't forget, we're brought to you by you, worldviewtube.com/sponsors, worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Check out all these great products that we use. A lot of you use Bella Grace, Numi, Gatatana, Worldview Talk, Worldview Water. It's all there. These are great products, okay? And of course, worldviewfoundation.com. But you know the drill. Worldviewtube.com/sponsors. These are great ways to get great products. Some of them support your health, but you're supporting us at the same time. And of course, worldviewfoundation.com. But let's get going. Joining me now is Leo Holman. Leo, you got a great article out. Execs from Palantir, Meta, OpenAI being brought into U.S. Army as colonels. The turbocharged military's use of drone warfare, robot soldiers, and other high-tech killing machines. This is pretty interesting, is it not? It is exactly what we talked about in the Worldview Report that Leo's the executive producer of. So we put that in there tonight from his report. It is corporate fascism. It's communitarianism, as I've been talking about and writing for years. Big word, I know. Big government, big business merging together. This is the epitome of the deep state. Leo?
Oh, definitely, Brandon. This is blurring the lines between government and big business. They're all part of the same club, as you know. One hand greases the other. And these, but they're all conservative now, these tech bros, right? So nothing to really worry about because, Mark Zuckerberg, who's a lifelong Democrat, is as soon as Trump won the election, he started talking like a Republican. Well, now we know why.
And bought a house in Washington, D.C., apparently.
Yes, and now we know why. I mean, his company, Meta, which is the one that owns Facebook, recently got a huge contract to supply some sort of virtual reality technology to the U.S. Army that they are able to train with in some sort of enhanced environment. Like if you want to train in desert warfare, it'll, give you a virtual reality desert battlefield to, show your wares in. If you want an urban warfare environment, they can create that. It's very interesting how it all works. But President Trump in his new budget just called, this news is just breaking today, he wants a 13% increase in the defense budget, which would bring it up to over $1 trillion, Brandon. I believe for the first time we've ever had $1 trillion. We've been close, but I don't believe we've ever had $1 trillion defense budget. That's what they're calling for, and it's going to make companies like Palantir, Meta, and OpenAI much bigger, much wealthier, and much more powerful than they are already.
And of course, we're going to end up with things like this. We talked about this on Worldview Report tonight. Look at this. This is a Chinese-made drone. Look how small that thing is. It's about the size of her fingernail. with a camera and with microphones. Imagine this thing flying into your house or your corporation and sitting up on a ledge somewhere and then just collecting all of your conversations and everything else, right? I mean, not to mention, how long before these things end up on the market and are flying into people's private bedrooms?
You know, that's a great question, Brandon. I mean, I think they're crossing the line with the technology today. I really do. That's called a mosquito drone because it's about the size of a mosquito, a mature mosquito, and it can literally get through a crack in your window. I mean, and it's inside your domain or your barracks if you're an enemy combatant. And then it will feed information back through artificial intelligence to your enemy, whether that be someone who wants to spy on you or someone wants to kill you. And they will know where you are, who you're talking with, what you're saying, and they can use that intelligence for future operations, whether that be, just to keep tabs and track you and what you're saying and who you're telling it to, or in a military application, it could be giving them information on your location in order to kill you.
I think we played a video. I don't know if I can find it while you're talking, but I think we played a video from some DARPA presentation that talked about the ability to basically kill a whole room of people with one drop of some kind of bio weapon. Do you remember that?
Yeah. I mean, this is the new modern warfare, and it's getting scary. Let's switch for a moment to Palantir. They have something called their Maven Smart system based on an AI platform, totally unique to them. And they are selling this to governments and militaries. And what it does is it provides information on wanted targets. It was used, for instance, by the Israelis in Gaza, and it tells the IDF which buildings to hit with their munitions. Now, that may sound great, but when you take the human element out of these decisions, Brandon, it really is dangerous. And the Maven Smart system, even according to Palantir, has a 10% error rate, okay? But as I mentioned in my article, apparently it's okay to be 90% proficient when you're killing people for the military. 10%, mistakes, no problem, nothing to see there. Let's just buy some more and let AI make more decisions for how to kill people and where.
I want to get back to that, but I think I found the clip I was referring to. Let me go to another, that lower third on there. Let me see if I can find another one with that lower third. They're all going to have the same lower third. All right. Anyway, I think this is the clip we've played extensive, the longer version on the air, a guy doing a military type presentation. Listen to this, folks.
Drugs across the proliferant barrier, which is the blood-brain barrier and cerebrospinal fluid barrier. So I get these things where they got to go. But I can also utilize nanoparticulate matter in a very indiscriminate way. The idea here is that I can get something called high CNS aggregation material that is essentially invisible to the naked eye and even to most scanners because it is so small that it selectively goes through most levels of filtered porosity. These are then inhaled either through the nasal mucosa or absorbed through the oral mucosa. They have high CNS affinity. They clump in the brain or in the vasculature, and they create essentially what looks like a hemorrhagic diathesis, in other words, a hemorrhage predisposition or a clot predisposition in the brain. What I've done is I've created a stroking agent.
What Agent Smith has done here.
What he created is a stroking agent. And you heard how small it was. So why could it not be delivered by that little mosquito drone, right? Is that small?
Yeah, I remember that clip. That is I believe a DARPA scientist. I don't remember his name, Brandon. That was well over a year ago. We reported on that, maybe 2 years now.
I think it's been at least 2 years.
He's a brilliant mind, but
he is smart, no doubt about it.
Yeah, he's using that brilliant mind to develop new and scarier weapons for the U.S. military.
Or at least tell us about it. I don't know if he's the one developing it or not.
The problem here is, I think, to sort of put it back in perspective, I have no problem with the U.S. military using these weapons against foreign enemy combatants, if indeed we're at war with those with those combatants. My issue is that whenever we see new technology like this rolled out and starting with a military application, it always gets sent and sold to law enforcement as well, and ends up being used against American civilians. And that's where I draw the line, Brandon.
Yeah. So now all of a sudden you got all these tech bros. And by the way, didn't we play a clip, Logan, of one of these tech bros from Palantir talking about how they let's see, Palantir on the elections in Europe?
Oh yeah.
I think I have it here. Let's see.
Where they were able to single out the far right and remove them from the debate. Yeah,
that's right.
Public debate.
And Logan has the clip, I think. Let me know when you have it, Logan. But he was bragging about doing that. And then they were using it. They were working on stuff, I guess, during COVID too. So
yes, that was Alex Karp, the CEO of Palantir.
Karp, that's right. He's got it here. Watch this, folks. We got to wait for it to load. See, this is a deal we do here, folks. We're live streaming this, and we're producing on the fly because the conversations go places. That's what sets our program apart from all the others. They're all canned. Everything is detailed down to the second. What's going to be said? Who's going to say it? There's no free flowing of information. No, hey, let's bring in a new clip to show that what we're saying is true. Or he brought something up. Let's go research that live right now and bring up the clip. That's why our show is more interesting. That's why our show is more entertaining, because this is not manufactured news that is scripted. Can you comment on that real quick before we go to the clip? Logan's got it, but can you comment? Because I think that's why our network's growing and this show is spiking in attendance, because it's an authentic program that in many cases is being produced live while we're on the air. I mean, there are a lot of things we talk about, clips we play. We don't even know what we're going to do before we go on the air in some regards, because the show just organically unfolds.
Right. All you told me before I came on today was you wanted to discuss my article. But what happens is we draw on previous knowledge and previous stories, and then we connect dots with items and issues that are directly related to this story I wrote, but go beyond and connect more dots.
Mm-hmm. And you're not going to get this at Fox News and other places where it's so scripted.
Correct. Right. This is not scripted. I can vouch for that. I never know what you're going to ask me.
Let's go to that clip. Here we go.
Look, we built PG, which single-handedly stopped the rise of the far right in Europe. We built Foundry, which was used to distribute the COVID vaccine and saved millions of lives globally. We built what we call multi-constellation, and what's often called the digital kill chain. And they're category-defining products. So when you deliver these products to the market, just honestly, people say this isn't going to exist, this isn't valuable, but then it changes the market. And then the market is the Palantir market. Now, that doesn't mean everyone in the world is going to buy our product, but it means most of the sensible people in the world are going to buy from the category we defined.
There you go.
You know, Brandon, you can tell from that little clip there that there is no moral conscience involved in the development or sale of these products. All it's about is expanding their market share and selling it to more governments, whatever they may want to use it for. As long as they pay good money for it, Palantir's fine with that. I would not be surprised, Brandon, as I mentioned at the end of my article, that at some point Palantir is selling these products to governments, and they'll be used to hunt down political dissidents, and especially conservative Christians, and throw them in jail. I really think we're heading towards a time like that. It could be a, martial law type situation. It could be a time of war when someone like you or me is telling the truth and the government doesn't want to hear it. I don't know the specifics, but I just have a real feeling, a bad feeling, that this technology is going to be used not just for military applications against foreign adversaries, but against we the people.
And I certainly think, as you and I both agree, have talked about on the air, I don't think this is the mark of the beast, but I think it's laying the foundation for the mark of the beast. And the Bible talks about the fact that
it could definitely be used, Brandon, to enforce the mark of the beast.
Right, that's right, because no one can buy or sell unless you have the mark.
Right.
And the Bible tells us, as we're going through the book of Revelation in my Sunday night church service here, on Worldview Tube, 8 p.m. Central Time on Sunday nights. We're on lesson 41 now, and we're in Revelation chapter 17. We'll be off this Sunday night, and the next Sunday night is everybody's taking vacation for 4th of July. But we'll get back underway. But we know from our study of Revelation 13, Revelation 14, some of these chapters there, that people are coming to Christ in huge numbers. In fact, the Bible says so many are becoming believers, you could hardly number them. But we also know they're being slaughtered in huge numbers as well. The question is, these people that don't take the mark, they're being hunted down in some ways. They're being denied food, but some of them are being hunted down. How is it you all of a sudden know who has become a believer? How do you know? Is it something they have said on social media? Is it something they have said to someone else? Or is there so much spying technology that it's impossible to hide that you've converted? And so how is it that they're hunting people down so quickly?
These Palantir software programs, Brandon, that's exactly what they do. They build a dossier on people, citizens, either American citizens or foreign nationals. And how do they do that? Within seconds, they can scan a person's social media posts, years worth of social media posts, maybe even some that you've deleted, right? They can scan your bank records, your banking and your financial records, your tax returns, your maybe some of your health records, your education records, just about anything in the public domain, and much that is not. Palantir can get access to it in seconds.
Have you watched the new documentary? Logan, do you think you could look and see real quick? Again, and I know we're live, so we're free flowing here, but look on YouTube. See if you can find how it is they found bin Laden. They used cell phones, tracking cell phone to find bin Laden. Let me see if that comes up. Have you watched the new documentary on how they found bin Laden?
No.
You haven't? Well, they're in this documentary, if I can find it. I
don't know if I would trust. Is it PBS?
No, it was a Netflix documentary.
I don't know if I would trust Netflix.
I don't either. That's for sure. But they're interviewing a bunch of people that had been inside the intelligence arena or being interviewed. Again, you take for what it's worth. But they say that they were using technology to find bin Laden's courier. Courier.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And they didn't even know who the courier was. Maybe that's what you should put in, Logan. Using technology to find Osama bin Laden's courier. They didn't even know who his courier was. And it took them 2 or 3 years. But they used technology to find him. And then somewhere, I think they found an audio recording of him. And then they were able to use that to pick up his voice until they finally tracked him and knew who the courier was. And then they used the courier by tracking him to find bin Laden. They describe in the documentary, again, take it for what it's worth, but they describe in the documentary, and there's multiple people being interviewed who give their names and what they were doing, and they were on this task force. They just knew they had a courier they had to find. And they're like, how are we going to find one person out of the whole world?
One thing that's very valuable to a company like Palantir is your phone records.
Yes.
And almost everybody has a cell phone today. So this is something, this is a ramification of modern society. As recently as 12, 15 years ago, everybody didn't have a smartphone.
Right.
But everybody is trackable now with these little things here. And it's a treasure trove of information for a company like Palantir.
100%. Did you find anything in there, Logan? He's still looking. Let me play this little trailer. This is from the trailer, Logan. Let me play the trailer. Okay, here we go.
start war. We will find those who did it, and we'll bring them to justice.
Cofer Black, chief of counterterrorism, said, "If you'll let me do it, I'll have flies walking on their eyeballs in 6 weeks."
That's what I'm talking about.
I was working with the representative from the FAA, trying to track some of the conspirators.
We knew this was Osama bin Laden.
We were going to war full out against bin Laden.
إني أقول للشعب الأمريكي إننا بإذن الله ماضون في قتالكم وسنواصل العمليات الاستشهادية.
You had branches of Al-Qaeda everywhere. Bin Laden basically franchised himself.
They had a stronghold in Tora Bora. That's where the intelligence said that they had retreated to.
This is the time to come in with massive force and end this thing.
Bin Laden got away. Every one of them that escaped the country was a potential pilot to fly another airline into a building.
It became obsessive, and yet we were constantly insulted.
How could this guy still be out there? It had been years since 9/11, and we had nothing.
And then here's this compound.
Oh my God, we may have found him. The president said nobody else in our government is to know about this.
My team's going to the most important mission in modern history. This is the moment when everything you've planned to get bin Laden is on the line in the next 20 minutes. And that's when all hell broke loose.
All right. Now, I watched that, and people should watch it. I find it very interesting, and I'd like to watch it with some experts to try to figure out the truth, and anything that's kind of Hollywoodish. But these were real people. They were on the hunt, using their real names, being interviewed. And Logan, I don't know if you can find the clip, free flowing here. It was called American Manhunt about bin Laden. But if you could find the clip where they don't know who the courier is. They just know they got to find one guy. And they're like, how are we going to find one guy out of the whole world? And I want to say it off the top of my head, if I remember correctly, it took them 2 to 3 years, like I said. And when I was watching this, I thought to myself, Leo, this is the technology, I think, in part, that's going to grow and it be advanced and go through multiple levels of evolution. And you will be able to, if you can track one unknown guy and find one unknown guy, I thought to myself, well, clearly the technology is going to get better and better. And now I know, in part, how it is they will actually be able to track anyone who becomes a believer during the tribulation.
100%, Brandon. It's getting harder and harder to be anonymous in this world. It used to be a given, Another thing that they're going to do, I think, within the next 5 to 10 years is put in a digital programmable money system, and there'll be no more cash. So there'll be no such thing as an anonymous purchase of anything. As Pippa Malmgren said at the World Government Summit a few years back, we'll have a perfect record of every transaction that occurs in the global economy. Imagine that. You go to buy a Snickers bar at the local, food pantry or party store, whatever you call it, and boom, it just shows up right on a blockchain somewhere in real time that Brandon House just bought a Snickers bar. You will not be anonymously purchasing anything, and I don't think this is too far off. It could be perhaps in the aftermath of World War III, when people tend to be most vulnerable, that they would hit us with something like that. An all new global digital currency. Absolutely. Digital ID, digital biometric IDs, and digital money are the two things I think that are going to close the deal for the New World Order beast system. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I interrupted, but say that again. You think what?
I think digital programmable money on the one hand, combined with biometric digital ID of all human beings, those two things are what the globalists will use in these end times to bring in the beast system. You will no longer be anonymous in any way, shape, or form, and it'll be, I think, the point of no return towards the beast system when we see those two things implemented.
Hold right there, folks. We'll be right back with Leo Holman of leoholman.com. Don't go away. We'll be right back after this break.
I'll tell you one little quick story. We had a Worldview Weekend client who lived in California, lost their house. Very wealthy guy. He didn't use Bitcoin. He came over here, drove to Arizona with $286,000 worth of his gold because he had no money and no house available. His bank was shut down because he couldn't have access to his bank account.
Was this during the fire? Was this during the fires?
During the fire. Didn't have his driver's license. He lost it. The state wouldn't give him a new license because he had no active mailing address. Real mess. So he came to Arizona to buy a house. He's moving everything over. He said, the only thing I got in my possession that I can get liquid with right now is my gold. I gave him a check for $286,000, and guess what? I didn't need his social, his driver's license. Sort of smiled, and I said, you know, I know you and Brandon talked about how this worked, but boy, this is great. I feel good. I got my money. Nobody bothered me, and I'm protected, and it's private.
Just simply go to worldviewgold.com, fill out the form, worldviewgold.com. Hello, I'm Brandon House. Is the government tracking you? Do they have access to all your data? Well, if you go to worldviewtalk.com, you'll find out about a cell phone company that, well, does not store your data. They don't do that. This is what they're known for. They don't store your data. You have privacy. You're not being tracked. That's why a lot of folks are turning to worldviewtalk.com. You'll find their prices are very competitive. All the details are there at worldviewtalk.com. Again, worldviewtalk.com. Oh, while you're there, not only do they have cell phones that aren't tracking you, you can find out about how to get a satellite phone. Should the whole system go down and you want to communicate with a family member or a loved one, you might want to have a satellite phone. Or how about their solar generators? They have great solar generators. Check them all out right now. Worldviewtalk.com, worldviewtalk.com. All right, we haven't been able to find the clip from the Netflix documentary, but we may have found something better. This is a piece from several years ago by CBS News. Now, as they were watching videos of bin Laden and stuff, they, I guess, found out that the courier had a nickname, somebody had a nickname, and then so they had to go and find, who is this guy? And they didn't have him on camera, but I guess he was being spoken to off camera and a nickname being used. I think you'll see that if you watch the Netflix documentary on that. But watch what CBS put out, because again, it shows us how they tracked this guy down with just a nickname. Here we go.
We are learning new details this morning about the top secret operation that killed Osama bin Laden. CBS News national security correspondent David Martin is at the Pentagon this morning with the very latest on that angle. And David, we're learning that it was in fact a courier that led U.S. intelligence to this compound as far back as August. But how were they able to track him?
Well, they got his nickname from their interrogation of the al-Qaeda operatives, and some of these were operatives like Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, who were held in those secret CIA prisons where they were subjected to waterboarding. First they got the nickname, then they were able about 4 years ago to get the real name, and sometime after that they got his cell phone number. So they started tracking the cell phone, but he would turn off the cell phone anytime he got anywhere near the compound. So for some years, they were listening for this cell phone, and it never showed up in any place that would correlate with a compound. And then last summer, he made a mistake. He left the phone on, and all it took was one phone call to give away the location of the compound.
Wow. But again, all they started with, Leo, was a nickname.
Hey, a little nickname and a little waterboarding will take you a long way, right? But
and that was how many years ago? So imagine the advancement in technology. That's the point.
That's what I was.
That's the point.
Just going to say, yeah, that's what I was just going to say, because they said he would turn his cell phone off and they would lose track of him. Well, today I believe they can track your cell phone whether it's on or off.
So what do you think all this means long term? You know, when you've got tech bros now becoming basically lieutenant colonels, are they going to start getting, by the way, security clearances to see all kinds of military stuff? And I guess they probably are, right? And who knows what else? Who knows what else on us?
Absolutely. I mean, many of these companies like Palantir and Facebook were started by the CIA to begin with, right?
Yes.
So this is really just their bosses, the U.S. government, now taking some of their most valuable human assets, these top executives, and making them colonels in the army, right? And so it just all fits together, Brandon. And I do think that at some point we're going to regret it. We're going to regret the lack of oversight by our Congress. And we're going to regret the fact that what started out as weaponry to be used against foreign adversaries was at one point turned inward against the American people. It always happens. That's what happened after 9/11 with all the new laws and the new agencies that were passed to keep track of those Muslim terrorists. Well, now they're tracking us. It's going to be the same thing with these new technologies being applied for the military.
And look at this headline on Forbes magazine. How a deviant philosopher, they put quotes around deviant, built Palantir, a CIA-funded data mining juggernaut.
Right. So the CIA, which is a quasi-military agency of the U.S. government, started Palantir. So now it's going to call in its favors and say, hey, now, you guys are getting a little too big for your britches and you're a little bit more knowledgeable than we are now. So we need to tap into some of that research and that expertise that you have sitting over there at Palantir, the company we created. So come on over into the military and we'll make you a lieutenant colonel automatically, which, by the way, is unprecedented. I quote Patrick Wood in the article saying how that was only made possible with the NDAA bill of 2019, which was crafted by congressional staffers who were all what? Technocrats. So Congress is totally out of the loop, totally ignorant of all of this technology stuff that's going on as we turn America into a burgeoning police state.
Yeah. Let's see here. Oh, no, I've just found something in that article, by the way. Among those using Palantir to connect dots are the Marines, who have deployed its tools in Afghanistan for forensic analysis of roadside bombs and predicting insurgent attacks. The software helped locate Mexican drug cartel members who murdered an American customs agent and track down hackers who installed spyware on the computer of the Dalai Lama. In the book, The Finish, detailing the killing of Osama bin Laden, author Mark Bowden writes that Palantir's software, quote, actually deserves the popular designation killer app, end quote.
Wow. This may be the company that we've isolated right here, Brandon, Palantir, that acts as the enforcement agency for the BEAST system when it is fully implemented. And don't forget also that the Trump administration, at the same time they're doing this, this whole thing we've been talking about here, they've also initiated Operation Stargate, a very creepy program where the White House is partnering with OpenAI and Larry Ellison at Oracle and all of these same cast of characters, these tech execs, to build out the AI infrastructure in America with dozens of new data centers so that they can collect more data, process more data, and keep track of more human movement, human actions, even human thinking at some point will all be monitored quite tightly by AI. At least that's the plan.
Now, here's an article by Bloomberg. Okay, this is an article by Bloomberg saying that, let me read, founded in 2004 by Peter Thiel and some fellow PayPal alumni, Palantir cuts its teeth working for the Pentagon and the CIA in Afghanistan and Iraq. The company's engineers and products don't do any spying themselves. They're more like a spy's brain, collecting and analyzing information that's fed in from the hands, eyes, nose, and ears. The software combs through disparate data sources, financial documents, airline reservations, cell phone records, social media postings, and searches for connections that human analysis might miss. It then presents the linkages in colorful, easy-to-interpret graphics that look like spiderwebs. U.S. spies and special forces loved it immediately. They deployed Palantir to synthesize and sort the blizzard of battlefield intelligence. It helped planners, avoid roadside bombs, track insurgents for assassination, even hunt down Osama bin Laden.
Wow. There you go.
The military success led to federal contracts on the civilian side. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services uses Palantir to detect Medicare fraud. The FBI uses it in criminal probes. The Department of Homeland Security deployed it to screen air travelers and keep tabs on immigrants. Well, they're doing a great job keeping tabs on the immigrants part, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But
they're keeping tabs on us.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's all ruse, isn't it? That's
the dirty little secret, correct.
Mm-hmm. But isn't that interesting that this is Bloomberg saying that it was even used track insurgents for assassination, even hunt down Osama bin Laden.
Yeah.
So that night when I was watching that documentary and they were talking about how they had to find one guy, literally a needle in a haystack of the whole world with just his nickname. And people should watch the segment. I wish we could find the segment and play it, but I was like, how on earth did they do this? I think it took them 2 or 3 years.
Now you know. They use Palantir.
Now, apparently they use Palantir. Because I'm sitting there watching this thinking, is that having to do with all the technology we've been talking about coming in with the tech bros? And I just thought, I wonder if any of those companies had anything to do with this. Well, I'm just reading Bloomberg tonight. I got to let you go, but I'm telling you, Leo, we are seeing how things that did not make sense to my grandparents would have never. I mean, you will get a mark during the tribulation if you follow the beast, which I'm not going to do, but I'm not planning on being here. But let's say we are. I'm not planning on taking it. I'm not going to take it because the Bible says if you do in Revelation 14, you're going straight to hell, and the fires of your torment are forever. So it's those who surrender and worship Satan, who's literally at that point, I think, indwelling the Antichrist. But my grandparents would have never understood, not to mention my great-grandparents, a system where no one can buy or sell unless you have the mark, and they're going to be able to track down those who are dissenting. How on earth? Of course, my grandparents died before they would have known about Facebook. They died before these cell phones came about that are the size they are today. They didn't have. I mean, just think, Logan. Just think, Leo. Your grandparents, my grandparents. That's not that far back for us. I'm 56. You're however old you are. Look at all this technology that has advanced since our grandparents died. Now, when they were reading the book of Revelation, they're like, I don't know how that's going to happen. And look at how fast it's happened. And look how it's like, I don't know, doubling every few months now. So I think I don't think there's any way to say this isn't the foundation. Now, the technology is going to get, quote, better, more advanced. But this is the foundation. This is the system being put into place, whether that's 5 years from now, 10 years from now. You'll look back and say, oh, it was all that was going on back then that built this system. Absolutely, Brandon. And the flip side of the coin is from this whole thing, while we're talking about advancing and improving technology, the flip side of that is that they're also working at the same time on depopulating the world so that they'll have fewer people to keep up with and track. That's a good point. By the way, what'd you think of my interview with Todd Carpenter last night on disease? Calendar. What do you make of that? I thought it was fascinating. He's written a book with my old friend, Dr. Jerry Corsi. I worked with him at WND, and I was not that familiar with Todd Calendar's work, but if he partnered in a book with Dr. Corsi, you can probably take it to the bank. These are interesting days, Leo. Yeah. And at the Bilderberg meeting, which just concluded over the weekend in Europe, what was on the agenda? Depopulation. And who is the head of the steering committee for the Bilderberg Group? Peter Thiel. Really? The founder of Palantir. And what did he say about depopulation? At the meeting, I don't know because the meetings are secret. But they do put out their agenda, and the last thing on the agenda was the issue of depopulation. Oh, wow.
But yeah, Peter Thiel is one of the top leaders of the Bilderberg Group, and he's the co-founder of Palantir. You can't make this up, Brandon.
Here is listen to this. BlackRock CEO. Listen.
I could argue in the developed countries, the big winners are countries that have shrinking populations. Okay, that's something that most people never talked about. We always used to think shrinking population is a cause for negative growth. But in my conversations with the leadership of these large developed countries that have xenophobic immigration policies, they don't allow anybody to come in, shrinking demographics, these countries will rapidly develop robotics and AI and technology. And if the promise, I didn't say it's going to happen, but if the promise of all that transforms productivity, which most of us think it will, we'll be able to elevate the standard of living of countries and the standard of living of individuals, even with shrinking populations. And so the paradigm of negative population growth is going to be changing. And the social problems that one will have in substituting humans for machines is going to be far easier in those countries that have declining populations.
Wow.
There
you go, Leo.
Incredible.
LeoHoman.com. You can go read his article right now. LeoHoman.substack.com. LeoHoman.substack.com. Folks.
Yes.
Fascinating. Great job, Leo.
Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you. Wow. All right, folks, we'll be right back. Don't go away.
True beauty isn't applied. It's nourished from within. Bella Grace Elixir, a luxurious, scientifically crafted blend designed to restore radiance, vitality, and strength at a cellular level. At the heart of Bella Grace Elixir lies cat's claw, a powerful herb from the Amazon known for its ability to control inflammation and protect collagen. With Verisaw collagen peptides, it goes beyond the surface, stimulating your body's natural collagen production to reduce fine lines, improve skin elasticity, and promote real, visible change. Bella Grace Elixir doesn't stop at collagen. It includes astaxanthin, one of nature's most powerful antioxidants. 6,000 times stronger than vitamin C, astaxanthin protects your skin from harmful UV rays and environmental stress, while locking in hydration and promoting a radiant, youthful glow. Experience the power of nature with Bella Grace Elixir at melissahousebg.com. Discover the science behind Bella Grace Elixir at melissahousebg.com. Read powerful testimonials from doctors and real customers who've experienced life-changing results, and explore other wellness products from Bella Grace. Bella Grace Elixir is more than just a product. It's a solution. Visit melissahousebg.com today.
Looking for a trusted source to understand today's world through a Christian worldview? Worldview Tube is built on the 35 years of Worldview books, columns, research, and high-profile interviews of Brannon Howse. Want to know more about Worldview Tube, its founder, history, team, and mission? Visit worldviewtube.com/about. That's worldviewtube.com/about. Worldview Tube is your source for understanding the times through the lens of a Christian worldview.
All right, joining me now is Mark Mitchell. But just in case you think you had a very rough day or rough week, check out this poor guy. Look at the guy up there by the red light. Up. Ooh. Hopefully he's okay. Good thing he was in a harness. But watch it again. He's telling this guy, go around, but I don't think the guy can see him. There's the vision and the ability to see in some those cabs is not what people always think they are. Wow. Wow. Anyway, for those of you that maybe thought you had a bad week or a rough day, there you go. Joining me now is Mark Mitchell. Mark, how are you doing?
Better than that guy.
Yeah, poor guy. That's in Louisiana. Hopefully he's okay tonight. So it's been an interesting couple weeks. How is the right direction polling doing for President Trump? I want to get into several things that you're covering, but how is the right direction polling going for President Trump?
Pretty much, I think everything that happened in the Middle East was just a tiny little bit of a blip. I think he lost some support with independents, and right direction was up about 48% about a week and a half ago. We had a couple overnights where it was like 43. It's averaging out at about 45 or 46 right now. The headline is still really, really, really stupidly high. So I don't think there's any real problem. And
why do you say stupidly high?
Oh, this represents a new era in representative democracy compared to recent presidential cycles. I mean, right direction, wrong track. Right direction barely got out of the 20s under Obama. And of course, there was a financial crisis that had something to do with that. For most of Biden's term, it was between 25 and 35. And then all of a sudden, when Trump gets into office, it shoots up to, we actually had a week where it was at 50%, meaning a majority of voters in the country say the country's headed in the right direction. That's never happened before in all of our polling history. We've had some high numbers before, but they've pretty much all been during Trump's first term. We had a couple of weeks where it got to 47, 48%. But now, for the first time, a majority of Americans think the country's headed in the right direction. That was about 3 weeks ago now. And we also had, for the first time, a couple of different weekly readings where right direction was positive, meaning more people think it's in the right direction than the wrong track. So if you ask me, my opinion, I'm a pollster. I think voters should get what they want. And I think there should be basically report cards, because voters have been getting screwed over so many times. And if you were going to pick like one report card, you would probably pick right direction polling.
Well, this is also something you've been tweeting about, I saw today. Who counts? Trump poised to try to remove non-citizens from the census. Well, this is important because this will impact, congressional lines and congressional numbers, I should say, in the House, right?
Oh, 100%. I mean, that's what this war has been about. Biden lost because he created essentially an invasion at the southern border. There was a lot of bad stuff that happened under Biden's presidency, but all the vision and optics of people just pouring across the southern border unchecked, fentanyl and violent crime coming to every city, all of the optics about criminal aliens being given open arms welcome taxpayer money funding and all this other stuff. It definitely, punctuated what was a very horrible term. And they were doing that for a reason. I think this is it, because there's been some analysis that has shown that the number of increases in the California registration, for instance, voter registration, is tied to the number of increases in foreign-born Californians. And we've actually seen non-citizens voting in elections before. The question is how much, and nobody knows. And then also the fact that non-citizens were picked up in the last census. Seth Keshel has some really good analysis that shows that just based on the last election, he thinks that 16 seats were taken from Republicans because of these people that are now padding out blue cities. There's a reason they have these sanctuary state and sanctuary city policies. It's like to attract all these people to the right places so that they can get increased representation in Congress. Now, all of a sudden, is the 2030 census, in the crosshairs? I think you have a situation where illegal aliens are self-deporting left and right. We've had the very first tick down in the number of illegal aliens in the country. ICE is focusing very heavily on those blue areas. There's probably a very good reason for that. Mm-hmm. And so this whole thing is unraveling underneath the Democrats. And that's, I think, one of the reasons I can surmise that you have Gavin Newsom out there on the front lines trying to act all histrionic to combat ICE and do everything they can in order to prevent this unraveling of their decades-long plan.
Well, they have, according to your polling, a big chunk of Americans behind them. 47% approve of sanctuary states, not just cities, states.
Yeah. Right. This is a tough one, and we have to approach this with a little bit of nuance. And I can read specifically the question so everybody has it in their heads. So-called sanctuary states have policies that restrict state and local officials from cooperating with federal immigration authorities. Do you approve or disapprove of sanctuary policies? So what the agreement here is a plurality agreement, 47% to 44%, that states can have policies to restrict state authorities from cooperating with federal immigration authorities. So there is an aspect of the question that gives us this result, let's acknowledge, but also there's the realities of the Overton window in which the Democrats have been ubiquitously normalizing sanctuary cities and states for years now, and that matters. The Overton window has been rapidly shifting left, and you might look around and say, well, you know, there must be the most hatred ever of these sanctuary policies. And it's not the case. It is the case because of the 4 years of Biden's administration that a strong majority supports mass deportations. But because of this normalization, actually higher numbers than ever support these sanctuary policies, at least as measured by that question. And that's kind of the rub that the right is in, is that the left has done a very good job on coordinating, on messaging, on funding itself, on keeping all of the little cats herded in order to systematically make the country shift left. Except for Donald Trump, there hasn't really been an effective operation on the right to do the opposite.
Wow. Let's go to this next one. 67% suspect climate change makes summer worse. Wait a minute. I thought we were finally reaching a point where more and more people weren't buying into this garbage. This is not a good sign.
No, it's not. No, a lot of these things still have weight. And so if you ask people questions about how serious climate change is, you're going to get a lower number. If you ask people questions about whether you're willing to pay increased taxes, you're going to get a really small number. But you also have to acknowledge that people are being broadly indoctrinated about things like climate change, about things like, you know, Iranian nuclear weapons, about all these things, about how evil Vladimir Putin is. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that every institution has been co-opted, and they all, across the board, essentially say the narratives that support the establishment. And the establishment has wanted to wrestle control, to use its grip, to cozy up with government, to increase its power, to create grift everywhere. And climate change is part of that. And it hasn't been reversed. People still believe that. The only thing is that people got pissed off about Biden because he made it unaffordable to live in America. And that is more important to them right now.
All right. What else are you seeing that, you know, was a big shock to you this week?
Well, I mean, we have some brand new Iranian numbers back, and we've been pulling on this a lot. And I can tell you that actually, I think that this whole situation with the Middle East is broadly popular. 84% agreed that Iran should never have a nuclear weapon. 57% going into it agreed with the idea of the U.S. striking Iran to prevent it from having a nuclear weapon. After the fact that we did the strike was also plus 20 almost. And then we also ask, well, okay, would you support additional support from the U.S. Air Force or Navy in order to assist Israel in an ongoing war? We use the word war against Iran. That was supported by a plurality, 49% to something in the mid 40s. But then finally we asked, well, what about boots on the ground? And that people were like, no bueno. Only 33% supported that. But back today, if the United States military becomes involved in the war between Israel and Iran, and again, like, let's acknowledge that Trump says it's over. Israel is taking a victory lap, presumably says it's over. Which is closer to your opinion? The U.S. should only target Iran's nuclear weapon sites, or the U.S. should try for a regime change to end the Islamic dictatorship in Iran. And nuclear weapon sites wins 57-24. So fewer than 1 in 4 U.S. likely voters think that we should be involved in regime change. It's not popular. Only 27% of Republicans, only 21% of independents, 25% of Democrats. So the idea of us getting entangled further in the Middle East is not popular unless it's a continuation of basically these strikes. My personal opinion is that we've probably done a pretty good job of making sure that that's not an issue anymore. And hopefully Donald Trump can get refocused on this domestic policy agenda, because the Republicans need all the help they can get. This big, beautiful bill stuff is wild.
So where are we going for 2026? Anything that gives you an indication of midterms?
Well, I think maybe 2 or 3 days after the election in November, I was on with Alex Jones and he asked me, what's the future of the left? And I conjectured then that they were going to get leftier and cultier, but also smaller. And that's kind of what we see happen. Look at this New York mayoral Democrat primary with Mamdani winning by a massive amount. And obviously, you have the whole thing where Cuomo was pretty bad candidate, right? The stuff that this guy's saying, I mean, the idea that the biggest and most powerful city in the United States is going to have a guy that's going to basically take government control of grocery stores, take all the high crime areas and replace police with social workers, raise taxes on the wealthy and all these corporations, when almost all these Fortune 500 companies have some footprint in New York. That's wild. Like, I don't know how that's going to go. And who's filling up all the airtime on the Democrat side? Gavin Newsom, AOC, Bernie Sanders, Jasmine Crockett, people like Rashida Tlaib. You just don't really see a lot of moderates out there. And so I guess they've decided, well, there's Trump, and Trump has got a big tent that keeps getting bigger, and we'll just continue to be the shrinking tent. And somehow that's going to help us win elections. And I really don't get the mentality unless they plan to do some accelerationist stuff, or maybe this is what they have to do to raise money because all of their money sources are from absolute radical wackos. Maybe it's because their funding sources have largely been cut off. But for 2026, here's the situation. Republicans won +3 in the national popular vote for the House back in the fall. We were exactly right. I think we were only like 0.1 or 0.2 off. Right now, our generic ballot, which was a relatively small poll, had Democrats +1. I think the truth is probably Republicans +1 or 2. It'll probably stay there because people have no other choice but to vote for Republicans if they want sanity in control of the government. Unfortunately, what I can't predict is the Republicans seem to be messing stuff up right now. We almost have more impeachment resolutions out of Democrats in the House than we have signed legislation out of Republicans in the House. That's kind of messed up. And again, I think this big, beautiful bill was fumbled from the beginning. Voters wanted the government shut down by a majority and an absolute hatchet taken to every part of it. And this was based on the sentiment that they saw coming out of Doge. People hate the federal government. They think it's super wasteful and even fraudulent. We even have a strong majority saying that the government is fraudulent and that they want massive change in Washington, D.C. and not business as usual. And what do you see out of Republicans? Oh, well, this is how the system works. This is how a bill gets made, and it's all this negotiation. And yeah, you're not going to get any cuts, and you're gonna get a few things from Trump's agenda, and you're going to like it. And it's too hard because of all these rules. Voters don't want to hear that crap. If voters cared about rules, they wouldn't have elected Donald Trump. And I think it's going to catch up with them. It's just a question of, are the Democrats even electable?
At what point do we finally have a Tea Party? People say, I'm done paying for a corrupt government that's full of a bunch of literally gangsters and fraudulent individuals paying money under the table to their favorite NGO, their friends, the kickbacks. I mean, at what point do the American people say, I'm out?
Yeah, here's the problem, though. Right direction polling's higher than it's ever been. You know what I mean? Like, that's the rub, is that we're kind of in this, like, era of maximum anger, but also like somewhat complacency. I don't even know how to measure this. And we've seen...
It almost seems like a contradictory, doesn't it?
Yeah. And at the same time, largest nationwide protests that we've ever seen in our entire history, too.
So Americans are being kind of schizophrenic in their polling.
Well, some of it's that the protests were AstroTurf, but I mean, the idea that people wanted Trump. He got a majority of the vote. He's in office. He's doing the things he said. You're going to get higher right direction polling. The problem is that I don't know what happens between now and 2026. There's a lot of wild things out of nowhere that could happen. There's a lot of positive things that can happen. We've seen more and more increasing just in the last couple of weeks. Election integrity news, and we've seen stuff about criminal accountability and going after these people, like the kind of letters that were sent to Colorado Secretary of State, things like that. Really good signs. And all that stuff would probably be somewhat disruptive to the midterms, as well as who knows what, for instance, California House races look like if they get rid of 2 or 3 million illegal aliens out of California.
Hold right there. A little bit more, including a clip from Donald Trump today, again, showing that he's doing what the people asked. Don't go away.
Consumers often ask, what should I expect when I take the Bella Grace elixir? And the answer's varied. It really depends on what your health and wellness needs are. I would consider this as your foundational core product for a whole range of health and wellness issues. Let me give you a few examples. If you're a little bit older and you have some joint health issues, some problems with mobility and discomfort, the elixir is going to be your best friend. If you have some skin health issues, wrinkles, hydration, aging, all of those elements are going to be benefited from the elixir, including age spots. Now, if you're in a younger demographic, maybe visual health is where you need some assistance. Eye fatigue, dry eyes, all of those are going to be benefited by the elixir. It's a core product because it benefits so many.
We live in uncertain times. In fact, we live at a time when our own governments all over the world are warning us that there could be big problems with our power grid. World War III seems to be right on the horizon. Let me ask you this. Do you have a satellite phone? Should communications go down with cell towers? Do you have a satellite phone to get a hold of that college student or your spouse who travels, whatever it might be, to get a hold of your senior adult parents? We have satellite phones at worldviewtalk.com, and you get the satellite phone for free when you sign up for their very reasonable payment programs for the service. Sign up for the service with a reasonable contract, get the satellite phone for free. Worldviewtalk.com. You'll also find they have, well, what I now have, which is a solar generator. Yeah, I have a gas generator, an LP propane generator, but what if that goes down? I want to back up to my backup. So I now have a solar generator as well. You'll find them at worldviewtalk.com. Check it out today, worldviewtalk.com. Welcome back. Glad you're with us, worldviewtube.com, worldviewtube.com, Brandon House Live. Talking about right direction, here is a clip by President Trump this afternoon, doing exactly what the American people elected him to do. A lot of them, millions, 77 million or so? Listen to this.
So sad. We're going to fully fund the final sections of border wall, impose a new remittance tax on money sent back to foreign countries, and dramatically increase deportations to a bare minimum of 1 million illegal aliens per year. And what we're doing is we're really going after the criminal aliens, of which we have plenty to work with. People say, well, that's a lot, isn't it? Well, remember, these countries are very smart. They're headed up by people I know. In almost all cases, they're very smart people, and they have the people of great common sense. They're not sending their good people out. They're sending the bad people out, and they put them into caravans. I think I came up with that name, but somebody did. It's a great name, a caravan. Thousands and sometimes as many as 30,000 people walking right into our country.
Well, there you go. That's this afternoon. Mark?
Yeah, I think that's great. That's exactly what people want. They want these people gone because of the economic impact that it's had on Americans. Middle class has been hollowed out. We have only 22% of U.S. likely voters thinking that today's children will be better off than their parents. And we've heard all of the things about the demographic collapse. What's wild is I actually looked at gender and age, and the biggest rift in America is between 30 to 39-year-old men and women who are 35 points apart politically. And that's just absolutely a crisis. There's a mental health crisis. There's an affordability crisis. Everything broke under Joe Biden, and it was because of this invasion. And now Donald Trump is fixing it, and he's using a broad spectrum actions. It's not just the wall. It's the wall plus an additional border patrol. It's now they're using these remittances. I've been calling for this for a long time. I was just looking. November 18th, I said that we should have a Social Security or work permit required to avoid a 50% remittance tax. This is going to massively increase self-deportations. And also, it's probably going to change the equation about what illegal immigration looks like for people coming to America, because we know how much of those people are probably being human trafficked, and the remittances are going back to basically pay off blackmailers and things like that. So this is definitely a shot across the bow at illegal immigration. And I would love for them to go one step further. This is what I would perfectly love to play out. We have a federal E-Verify system. 22 states have now passed it into law within their own states because the federal government will not do it. And I've been told it's because basically Republican big business interests love their slave labor, and those interests are more important than Republican voters when it comes to Capitol Hill. I would love to see a Republican Congress step up and pass a one-page bill that federally mandates E-Verify across the nation and then get rid of the filibuster to ram it through the Senate. That would increase some self-deportations right there. And that's the kind of thing that people support. E-Verify is overwhelmingly, we're talking about 70% to like 20% kind of numbers here. People are like, why don't we do this? Same thing with paper ballots, same thing with basically everything, with election integrity, audits, IDs, all this stuff could be shoved through. And it's like, again, this comes down to like Trump has to unilaterally do this stuff with executive action. Republicans are failing open on the best agenda they've ever had. Donald Trump gave them the best agenda. All I have to do is step up, break a little bit of a sweat. And he's out there leading on this. Like, when was the last time you heard like Republican congressional representatives coming out and calling for strong action like this? They just don't do it. There's a few of them. That's it. So he's playing a completely different game than Congress. And it's so hard to predict how that will play out in 2026. Probably will continue to be a Republican advantage, although the question is how much enthusiasm will there be to turn out since Trump's not on the ballot? And will the Democrats pull it together? And that, it is possible, but right now it doesn't look like they're going to, right? And so weird time, but Americans, again, are getting what they want. All of this chaos that you've heard about over the last couple of weeks, it hasn't done anything to Donald Trump's numbers. He's still +3 from an approval rating, which is higher than the +2 he got in the fall. He's been basically averaging about +5 for the last month. And this Iran-Israel situation didn't do it. These protests didn't hurt him at all. In fact, the stuff that Gavin Newsom was doing made his numbers go up. And here we are. So Trump's going to continue to be Trump. Republicans are going to continue to be Republicans in Congress. And it's impossible to predict what that's going to mean in November of 2026. And that's, I hate to say that they're all existential, but that's probably a super existential election.
So in closing, J.D. Vance, anyone else you see? Maybe Pete Hegseth. Who do you see? Marco Rubio. Who do you see as the strong contender? Are any of your polls showing anything as to who could be the strong contender in 2028?
We haven't done the huge gamut of names that we have done for Democrats with Republicans yet, although we have done some matchups with J.D. Vance. And we probably will, but he should be the heir apparent. Like, it really should be that way. And maybe it'll change. Maybe he won't be for whatever reason. He doesn't, in the matchups we've done, he hasn't completely captured all of Trump's numbers yet, but it is early. And then most recently, just a week ago, we asked J.D. Vance favorability and got like a +9 with a 52% favorable, which was exactly Trump's numbers. So I think people are starting to wake up that he's going to be good. And I personally think that he's got the right set of policies. I think he's going to be an extension of the Trump administration, but in a different, potentially more organized way with more message discipline. We'll have to wait and see. Those other folks, I don't have polling to support it. All I know is that, listen, nobody came close to Trump at all in any of the polling in the primary, not even really Ron DeSantis. In my polling, Ron DeSantis never got closer to 25 points, and that was before he actually declared. And once he declared, his numbers just plunged for a lot of reasons. Everybody else was like low teens or single digits. And so I think that would probably be the same. I think Rubio's done a very good job, but at the end of the day, there's an aspect of charisma that Rubio always looks to me like he's personally trying to do a really good job answering a question as technically best as possible. And it doesn't necessarily read to me as like empathy in a way that J.D. Vance, I think, has done a better job mastering. And so I think that he's probably going to be, and listen, the establishment's going to try and run 1 million people that are all establishment picks, right? And we'll have to see what that looks like and who those people are. But we've seen what happened in 2016 and those people don't tend to really hold up. And so it should be J.D. Vance's to lose. I think he can grow into his numbers. And I do think he's true MAGA, but you never know. Something could happen. There could be a mask off moment. We just have to wait and see. Hegseth, I mean, I think he's doing great. His numbers are okay, but I just don't see it.
All right, there you go. Let's show you where you can follow what Mark's up to. There it is right there. Mark Mitchell with Rasmussen. RasmussenReports.com is the website. You want to follow him, it's Honest Pollster, at Honest Pollster. Hey, by the way, didn't I see something last week about Donald Trump raging about the pollster at Fox News? Did you see that?
Yeah, he does it all the time. And every time I do it, he does it. I tweet on my feed at Fox News, accurate polling is only one DM away. And they haven't taken me up on it. Basically, all Fox's primetime hosts crap all over their pollsters too, and they won't even use them. But the Fox News stuff, not the headline talking heads, the news stuff is forced to use these people, and they're garbage. They poll like CNN, they poll like CBS, they poll like ABC News, Reuters, Ipsos. They're bad.
Well, I'm glad we have you, Honest Pollster, at Honest Pollster. That's his moniker there. That's his handle at X. Mark Mitchell. Mark is also going to be a keynote speaker at our 22nd annual conference coming up this fall outside of Memphis, Tennessee, in beautiful Collierville, Tennessee. Full details at worldviewstore.com. You can walk up and talk to Mark, shake his hand, have him, sign a book. Have you written a book, Mark?
Not yet. I should. I have to.
Yeah, you should.
I'm too busy writing tweets.
Okay, you can print out a tweet and have him sign it. But you'll be able to meet him in person, hear him speak. He's going to do some exclusive polling for us with his presentation on what is the worldview of Americans. It's going to be amazing. Yeah, and again, this October, come and join us along with Mark and Gordon Chang and Sidney Powell and so many others, worldviewstore.com. In the meantime, check out Honest Pollster at Honest Pollster on X. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. Fun conversation.
Indeed it is. Mark checking in tonight. All right, joining me now is Michael Weiner. Let's get a financial update. Obviously, Donald Trump is very upset with the chairman of the Federal Reserve that he is not lowering interest rates at all. What does all this mean for you and your future? Let's talk about de-dollarization and so much more. He joins us now. Michael Weiner, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
You, especially when you're wearing blue, and I can't see Dolly anywhere, but that's upsetting.
She's around. She's around. She always is. All right, tell me, why is Jerome Powell so dead set on not lowering interest rates to help get this economy of Trump going? Is it because it's Trump?
Yes. Donald, what Powell has successfully done is destroyed the entire protocol of the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve was supposed to be an apolitical organization, was supposed to be an organization of equal thought from all the members. When you have all these people joining and voting simultaneously the same, it's a mess. When you see what he did as related to the situation with Biden's election and lowering interest rates at a point of time he should not have, twice he did it, twice right before the election, was shocking to anybody in the financial community. Then when Trump gets involved with tariffs, when Trump gets involved with the financial system, everything is terrible. He can't lower interest rates. The European Union has lowered interest rates several times already. The last time we were at financial positions the way we are right now, interest rates were substantially less. Today, there was a gentleman, and I'm trying to remember his name. He used to be on the Federal Reserve Board. He said it best. The Federal Reserve is not acting in any way, shape, or form the way it has. What Donald Trump is doing right now, by coming out with a successor and stating it ahead of time, he will do that like what happened with Paul Volcker. He will push the move ahead of time. So the board members who are still going to be remaining are saying, well, wait a minute. Am I voting with Powell, or should I hold off and vote with door number 2 because I want to keep my job? And it's going to ultimately force Powell to quit. Powell initially, when Trump first came into office, he was literally asked, "Is Trump? Are you going to resign?" And he, rather than answering that in a manner that people would have expected, he said immediately, "No, I'm not," because he's apolitical. The guy has totally destroyed a lot of the credibility of the Federal Reserve, and all good economists all around, literally on both sides, can't stomach the guy.
Well, that's where we got this headline. No love for the dollar as markets fret about Fed independence.
Correct. That's it.
That's it.
It's literally being manipulated in a joint manner, and Powell is doing nothing where he should be doing it. The Fed is having overreach in areas that's none of their business. And literally the amount of debt, literally in 2003, they had $7 billion of currency on their books. Now they have $7 trillion on their books, and it's out of control. That area needs to be totally revamped. Federal Reserve is not what it's supposed to have been. It's way out of control, way too much power. Federal Reserve Board news conferences are supposed to be extremely low-key, extremely nonpartisan, apolitical, and what he comes out with, tariffs are terrible, tariffs are going to damage the economy, tariffs this, tariffs that. Guess what? Tariffs have been going around since January. They haven't done anything. He's absolutely wrong, but he's playing a political game.
So how long before he leaves on his own, or can Trump fire him?
Trump won't fire him. Pardon me. Trump will turn around and force his exit by naming his successor ahead of time. It happened before. And that's the play that they're trying to make.
How far in advance? How far in advance?
It's right now. It's next May is when it's supposed to happen, but he's doing it now. So.
And who is it he's naming? Who's he naming?
We don't know. It's down to about 4 or 5 people.
Who do you think?
Some of the people. I think it's going to be I forgot. I'm pronouncing the name Warsher, Warsher, I think it's Warsher or Warshell.
Is he already a Fed governor?
Yes, and I think he'd be phenomenal. Really top drawer guy. He also mentioned Bassant. He mentioned Kevin Hassert. He mentioned somebody else, but I think it's going to be Warsher or something.
Will it be a current Fed governor? All those guys are all those guys current Fed governors?
No, okay. None of them. Bassant's a Treasury guy. He's a Secretary of Treasury.
Well, that I know, but the other guys, and none of them are Fed governors now.
No, and Hassert is the guy who's running the economic end of things. I don't think he's going to get to move him at all. I just think he's going to name somebody, and it's going to happen within the next 30 days because he's had it. Trump has
and what he'll do basically is have a shadow Fed governor, a chairman that he's talking about, getting to make statements until it overshadows Jerome and he's forced out.
Exactly the play. And I think the big push will happen after he passes his big new beautiful bill. That's going to happen. I believe without a doubt it's going to happen. And I think it's going to be very good for the economy, and it's going to be outstanding for gold.
Let's go to this. Labor market creaks, continuing job losses, claims highest since November 2021. The trend of modestly rising initial job losses claims stalled last week, dropping from 246,000 to 236,000. Why are we seeing jobs being lost?
A lot of people in business right now are standing back to make sure that all these changes tax-wise happen. If they don't happen, they're screwed in business, and they're going to do what's necessary to sit back and wait. I think you're going to see in July, once this bill passes, a lot of rehires, a lot of market openings, a lot of small business activity. It's going to get really crazy letting into the third quarter and the fourth quarter, and it's all going to be very positive economically. I think the market is still going to have some issues. But I think gold is money again. There's no doubt about that. So we'll talk about that with de-dollarization.
Here we go. Q1 GDP revised lower as personal spending unexpectedly prints weakest since COVID. Whew.
Yep.
What does this do to inflation or uncertainty? They're scared. What?
It's uncertainty. The inflation's way down. It's uncertainty. People want to see this big, beautiful bill pass. They want to make sure
people are saving their money right now and kind of parked it on the sidelines.
Oh, correct. And I think after they do that, they're going to jump into a lot of different things at that point. And I think you'll see the housing market get more aggressive.
Well, that would be a lot of the personal spending is tied to housing, because when you get a new house, you get a new washer and dryer, new refrigerator, some new rugs, maybe some new curtains, you get different things, maybe a new backyard set, so personal spending goes up when people are buying houses or buying a different house, trading up, trading down, whatever they're doing. But if you don't have the housing market moving, that's got to impact personal spending as well.
Absolutely. And there's also something else. You have a lot of people who are coming up to retirement age that have not opted to retire because they're waiting to see if this comes in. Because if this doesn't come in, your ability to retire is probably going to get pushed back a couple of years.
Because your tax rate's going to go up so high.
Correct. But then you're going to see all of these people who now can retire and see activities to be able to support that go in line. It's going to be a bombshell, but it'll hit more importantly in the third and fourth quarter.
Okay, let's go to this one. Central banks turn to gold over the dollar.
That's because of de-dollarization. There's a big difference, but people get confused. There's a huge difference between de-dollarization and weak dollar. De-dollarization is all about the world reserve currency. And so many people out there go, well, they hear about the world reserve currency and somebody says, it's like that commercial about Domino's having stuffed pizza cheese in its crust. Everybody goes, oh, yeah, I know what the world reserve currency is. And the truth is they do not. World reserve currency, ladies and gentlemen, was created in 1944 in the Bretton Woods Treaty. At that point of time, the United States became the world reserve currency. Countries in Europe did not have any type of financial security because they just got freed by the Nazis. They needed to have strength in their currency. So when people took their money and used it and converted it into U.S. dollars, which gave it strength. Countries still do that right now. When they pay between each other, they convert their money into U.S. dollars. A big thing happened over the weekend. The minister of China, the financial minister of China, and this totally should have been a huge story, but it got lost with the Iran situation, openly stated that they are going after the U.S. dollar as a world reserve currency. This is de-dollarization. This is getting rid of the United States power. If we lose the world reserve currency status, we lose economically, geopolitically, militarily. It's a huge problem. And he openly threatened that fact. He said we need to go to a basket of currency where China is openly accepted and the U.S. dollar is one of the assets within it. That would harm us. Trump and Basant are aware of it. That's why they're auditing Fort Knox. It's going to be a battle. I put my money on Trump and Basant. But guess what's the usual of the bargaining chip in all of it? The Chinese, in their Rio reset, are talking about the SWIFT system to replace the IMF. They're talking about the currency through BRICS to replace the U.S. dollar, and they're talking about their own digital currency out of China. And every single facet has gold connected with it, every single facet to give it power. That's why Basant is looking at the dollars of the U.S. gold being changed and repricing. So it's going to be a battle. If you do not have an adequate amount of gold in your portfolio, you're going to take a somewhat of a blemish. I don't trust the banks as far as I can throw them. And I also think we have a problem, as it might be, with the Chinese further and our world reserve currency situation heading into the fourth quarter. They're going to get real gutsy. Watch and see.
Well, how so?
I think they're going to go after the people that we do business with, the European Union, our allies, and say, we're not going to do business with you, with China, unless you use our money. And I think right now they have never done that. But I think that's going to start happening after this meeting in July. That's why I call it the gold trifecta in July. That's going to be a situation of the Basel III, which is all about the banks having to use physical gold in their portfolio versus paper. Then we're talking the Rio Reset. They're having that meeting on July 6th and 7th. It's 42 to 43 nations are going to be there. It's not just China. It's huge, and it's going to be very strong for gold, not good for the U.S. And then finally, the situation on Fort Knox is going to come to a head. We're going to charge forward. We're going to charge forward with our big new deal, and it's going to be Trump getting real gutsy currency-wise, and that's when he's going to come out with his nominee for the Federal Reserve. All of it to combat. It's a huge month. Was usually a sleepy month. It's going to be a busy month.
July will be a
time.
busy month, and you're still projecting gold where and silver where by the end of the year?
I'm looking gold in October of this year at probably the November 1st, 4,000. And I'm looking at the end of the year, 4,200. And I'm looking at silver between $60 and $70 by year end.
$60 to $70 for silver.
Yep. Silver is getting ready. We're over 35. The big hurdle in silver was holding the
We're
number
over 36 right now, I think, actually.
Exactly. But the resistance level was at 35. Once we go through this, the next resistance level is 42. When we blow through 42, it's going to go right to 50. And at that point in time, it's new horizons. So it's setting itself up interestingly. But the thing about silver, it's a commodity. Gold is money. Silver is a bottle rocket. So buying silver, and Wes and I tell our clients, we have to watch it carefully, because as far as a long-term hold and a speculative hold, we need to watch it. That's the big issue with silver. But gold right now, I would be very careful, and I'd be very careful of the banks. The banks are not your friend. They're trying to push digital currency because they're playing into the hands of the Chinese. That's who it is. They're playing into the hands of the Chinese.
Are you expecting any more bank failures? Do you see more bank failures on the horizon this year, next year, next couple of years?
I think probably in the next couple of years, next year, I think it'll get interesting when they bring in the new Fed chairman and they start revamping some of the Federal Reserve system with the banks. But as long as Powell is in, he'll play games all day long geopolitically. If you're a Republican bank, you're in trouble. And we got to be concerned about some of these banks that are still interconnected with the Chinese. So I think the big problems with the banks will be next year. What I'm more concerned about with the banks is a very simple thing. It's called digital banking. As we talked about on a show a couple of weeks ago, Brandon, 1,100 branches shut down in the last 6-7 months. They're trying to force people to do business without going to see the people and doing business in the bank. They want you to sit back and do it online. And we know what happens when banks get information online, don't we? Mm-hmm. We just had another Worldview client of ours, a lady, and probably watching tonight. What a horrible experience she had at the bank trying to get one thing signed. I mean, drove them insane for days to just get one document taken care of. Don't sign it, do sign it. I mean, I said, God forbid you needed money. I mean, this is insanity. That's the whole beauty of gold. Create your own gold bank. When you have a gold bank with us, liquidity is literally within about 4 or 5 days, worst case, unless you fly here, you can get your money and nobody can stop you. You're not playing games. This is going to get worse. Banks are going to get significantly worse. Manipulative.
Indeed. More information, get a free packet, no obligation, worldviewgold.com. worldviewgold.com to get that free no obligation packet, including how to find out about how to put gold into your IRA. You can also find out about the difference between bullion and numismatic, 1933 and older. Again, all the information is in this packet. It's absolutely free. Worldviewgold.com, worldviewgold.com. You can also text Wes your name and address. That's another way you can do it. And he'll send it out to you, 602-558-8585, 602-558-8585. As always, Michael, thank you for checking in with us tonight.
My pleasure. Say hello to Dolly. I haven't seen her lately. I'm going to have to send her some dog bones and stuff like that.
I will send you a video of her myself.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening, guys. Good night.
Thank you, Michael. Michael Weiner checking in. All right. Thanks again for joining us tonight. Now, don't forget, we're going to be off for about a week for the 4th of July, having a little family time, a little break to recharge our batteries. But if anything happens that requires me to come back on the air, breaking news, anything happens, we'll do that. Make sure you're getting our apps at worldviewtube.com/APPS, worldviewtube.com/APPS. Set the notifications to get our push notifications for when we go live. If you already have our apps and you didn't set the notifications, just go to WorldviewTube, just go to your settings. Go to settings, look for notifications, click that, then scroll through your list of apps till you see WorldviewTube, click that, brings up the WorldviewTube app, and then you hit the green button that turns the notifications on. All right. Otherwise, when you get the apps at worldviewtube.com/APPS, be sure to select that you want to get notifications from us. That way, when we do go live with breaking news, you'll know, hey, something must be happening. House is coming off its vacation to go to the news desk. Or big breaking news happens, just turn us on. Give us a few minutes to get a suit on and get to the desk. That means something's happened. All right. So don't worry. Keep praying for us, supporting us, and watching the great programming we are going to be dropping in, some of my documentaries and other things during the Brandon House Live normal time slot. But otherwise, we're going to take a break and come back refreshed and ready to go for the rest of the summer into the fall. So again, thank you again for all your support. Roll the music. Let's call it a night. So tomorrow, I won't be here. Friday night, I won't be here. All right. I'm going to take off. I'm going to start taking off tomorrow. I'm going to work for part of the day, do radio tomorrow, but then again, after radio at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 2 o'clock Central, we get off the air. I'm going to pack it up and be done for the day and spend some time with the family and with Dolly. Right, Dolly? And she's laying over there in her pet bed. Worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com. Thank you for your support. Remember, folks, we need your support even during the summertime, okay? A lot of it drops during the summer. People, I guess they forget about us. They get busy, but don't let that happen, okay? Please, worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com. Hope you have a great 4th of July and be safe. Keep your head on a swivel with all that's going on, okay, with the terror cells they're talking about, whatnot. Be safe. Pray for us. We'll pray for you. And as always, may God save America. Take care.
Faith, spiritual values, moral issues, government, economy, education, work, responsibility. What we think about these depends on our worldview. Now, VCY America presents Worldview Radio with Brandon House.
And welcome. Glad you're with us on this June 26, 2025. We're going to be joined by Shahram Hadian and Usama Dakdok.